Hello there viewers and welcome back. This is Dave here. So I've got a little bit downtime at the moment, mainly due to this god awful flu that's been going around. So I thought I'd make a quick video just to show you all about what I'm working on. This is a mini project. And what you see here are all the parts necessary to build something called a SuperGun or a control box. And basically, when it's all put together, what it will allow you to do is to play one of those old school classic arcade games at home. The best place to start would probably be the monitor. This here is a Commodore 1084 monitor. In my opinion, these things are absolute beasts. This thing's about 20 or 30 years old and it's the absolute best, I reckon, for retro gaming. That's the power plug, the power button, the power plug, some controls for H and V on the picture. And the most important thing is that 9-pin D-type plug there. That's RGB input. And there's a couple more controls. And on the far right, there's some audio inputs left and right. Again, it's an absolute beast of a monitor. I love it. So next up is that's the front of the monitor there. By the way, if you don't have access to one of these, you can get a relatively cheap SCART or RGB to HDMI converter off eBay for relatively cheap. So don't worry if you don't have access to one of these. So anyway, next up is the power supply. Now this is just a regular type PC power supply. It's a fairly chunky one, it's an older one, but the most important thing about this one is that it's got the 20-pin connector. This is the Molex type, but it's 20-pin. The reason why that's important is because it carries plus 12 volts to plus 5 volts, but the big one is it also carries minus 5. And the reason why that's a big deal is because a lot of the older arcade PCBs need the -5 for the sound logic or for the sound. So you could probably still run a lot of the games, but some of the older ones, if you use a more modern power supply that doesn't feed -5, you probably just won't get sound. So there's just something to bear in mind there. Oh yeah, and just quickly, this is just the other side of the power supply, so you can just see that's the back of it. That's the mains in. You can plug a monitor into that, so you can control the whole thing with just the one switch. So there you go. That's the power supply that I'll be using. So now moving on to the controllers input. Now this is where things get a little bit different from a traditional SuperGun. Like some of the ones that I've built in the past, I've just basically used one-to-one connections for everything, including the controllers. This is a little bit different because I'm going to use Super Nintendo control pads as well as a converter. So the general idea is to save space, and I'll be able to use this controller, which will plug into here, and this part, which is a 15-pin D-type, I think it's Neo Geo pin config, will plug into the SuperGun controller ports. So that's something that's a little bit different there, just for the sake of space constraint. And next up is the audio. It's just a standard 3.5mm jack, 3.5mm jack into stereo RCA sockets, white and red, and this will go back from the back of one of the jacks on the SuperGun into the back of the trusty 1084 monitor, which I've got running right now, just to give it a test. And next up is just a miscellaneous, I guess. This is the SCART, 221-pin SCART plug. That again will go from the back of the SuperGun into the back of the 1084 monitor, which is the 9-pin D-type plug. And we'll be wiring up this cable in a future video, just to show you how it all works. So from the SCART to the back of the SuperGun to 9-pin D-type into the back of the monitor. And here we go, last but not least is the SuperGun itself. Now this is basically a jammer wiring harness or a loom, but in PCB form. And the reason why I've done that is because it's a hell of a lot more convenient than what I've done in the past. It's a lot neater too. So at the front, this blue thing, this blue plug, that's where the arcade PCBs will plug into. That's a 56-pin jammer plug. So, and along the side here, we have the power input. That's the 24-pin ATX standard, but we can also use 20 with the -5 volts. There's also an option of the jumper setting for the newer power supply. So don't supply 5 volts, -5 volts. This PCB will do it for you, which so it makes it really awesome. Moving on to the back left. So here we've got the two 3.5mm phono jacks, or stereo jacks I should say. One will be for the speaker, and the other one will be for, as we said before, that's what we're going to use to plug into the back of the Commodore 1084 monitor. Next up is the SCART plug. Again, so we've got this, and we can just plug the SCART up to this. This will be the, we'll plug that in after we've wired it up, and that will be our video signal. So, only the best. And along the side here, this is a custom 9-pin connector for a lot of the Capcom Street Fighter and the Midway Mortal Kombat games. So those games, those fighting games require extra buttons. You plug them up here, and then they route back to these two 15-pin connectors for control input. Player 1 here, and player 2 here. So, and there's some various switches there to supply +5 volts to pin, I think 1 or 8 of the 15-pin. That's for the use of those converters here. So we can use different control pads, the Super Nintendo, PlayStation, and the good old-fashioned Sega Saturn 6-button pads are currently supported. Retro Electronic manufacture those, and then they can be used with this particular unit here. Now, this one's really nice just because it's got all of these rails here where you can connect your own peripherals yourself. They've got rails for player 1 controls, player 2. I think that rail there, that 5-pin rail there is for video. That one's for credit, test, ground and service. That one there is for speakers, and that one's an always on connection, I think, so that's a secondary power button, so you can wire all that up externally. That chip here allows autofire, I think. It's got logic in there, so you can enable autofire if you buy like some PCBs like Raiden or Twin Cobra or something like that. So and there you have it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment and subscribe, so you get notified for the next videos that I do. You know that we're going to do a video cable, and that we're going to wire all of this up together, and then hopefully it works first shot. Cheers. Thanks for watching.